Ooyala tracks a large amount of data across hundreds of millions of consumers on a monthly basis, which is really just aggregated data across all of our publishers, both domestically and internationally. And from that, we're actually gleaning a lot of really interesting insights into how online video is evolving. And what's actually most interesting about where we're evolving to is we're evolving back to TV content. Online video in the early days was very much focused on short form content, clip-based models, mostly ad-supported, and what we're finding is a really strong shift towards mid and long form content again, which is really being enabled by different devices. As we actually get content back out to mobile devices, in particular tablets, and back out to the 10-foot experience, we're seeing consumers actually go back to watching mid and long form content, which we think is really indicative of this premium content shift back from the classic TV experience through PC, mobile, tablet, and back out to the TV again, but just in a more personalized fashion. So we built Hook primarily because it's still very difficult to provide a premium, high quality content experience on Android devices. So Android is a wonderful platform, but it's still very fragmented, and very different than iOS. And the capabilities that essentially are provided to publishers are just very different. And it's actually hard to build a seamless experience on devices ranging from Android 2.2 all the way out to Android 4.1. What we're able to do with Hook is it's a media player replacement effectively that provides a seamless layer for live and on-demand content, premium protected content with full DRM capabilities, integrating all of our analytics, integrating our content recommendation, all of those really valuable components that we provide our publishers as part of the Ooyala platform, all natively baked into the Hook application, which then allows our publishers to just focus on building HTML5 experiences, whether those are native app or browser-based experiences, and we offload all of the complexity and difficulty of the media playback model. What we see as a result is we're seeing increases in consumption then on the Android devices. And this goes back to the fact that we do see, even though Android is more dominant, we see far more consumption on iOS devices because it's just simply easier. Not only are consumers watching more of that content, we don't think that's actually because the consumers are different. We see it solely because it's so much harder to build an Android, it's so much harder to build an Android experience that the publishers themselves just haven't invested in building comparable experiences for Android devices as what they built for iOS. But the hope is with Hook that this really starts to change. The challenges we have on Android devices was, on earlier versions of Android, we had Flash. And Flash on Android, though it wasn't as full featured and performant as what we saw in the browser and on PCs, it was still actually a really good platform, and we were able to build some really elegant experiences on it. Unfortunately, as Adobe essentially moved away from their Flash strategy on Android, HTML5 has grown phenomenally on Android, and Android's implementation on HTML5 is actually very, very good. The video support on Android is just not there yet, right? And that's what actually makes it really difficult is, how do I play back, for example, a live HLS stream that's encrypted, that has detailed analytics and monetization capabilities. It's just so difficult right now that's really what all of our publishers were asking us for, is an easier way of basically getting what they already have access to on iOS. What we really believe is that the future of TV is that the lines just simply blur. Whether I'm watching content on my tablet or on my PC or on my TV, at the end of the day, consumer behavior will change radically on which screen we consume content, but the type of content is changing very slowly, and we don't think there's a radical change in that. How we consume it and how we move from a world of this broadcast model where it's a one-to-many, right? When you turn on your TV onto ESPN, you're going to see the exact same thing that I see. That will change. We're going to move away from the world of 100 channels into a world of 1 billion channels. And it's a personalized experience such that I will flow through Sean's channel very differently than you will flow through your channel. So it will be a one-to-one dialogue with each and every single consumer. We learned a lot of things when we were at Google, not only by watching YouTube, but simply building Google's products around web search and iGoogle and others, we really learned a lot of valuable lessons in how we build a premium and quality experience for our consumers. Ultimately, if you look at the base of Google's business, Google has provided a phenomenal foundation on top of which the entire industry has evolved. They become synonymous with search and arguably synonymous with discovery. The most valuable thing that Google is able to provide each and every single consumer is they're able to connect them with distinct value as they navigate their online experience. And it's no longer just search. What we see with a lot of our publishers, and really the value that Ooyala provides, is we help them connect their consumers with the most valuable content that they provide. Most of our customers have libraries of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of assets, and navigating that and discovering the right type of content for their users is an incredibly daunting challenge. We see there's a number of the core fundamental needs. There's a lot of emphasis on live these days, and what's really interesting is live and VOD, the lines are actually blurring. We're investing heavily in being able to build a seamless experience across those two, because for the consumer, it shouldn't actually matter. Very similarly, it shouldn't actually matter to the consumer which device they consume content on and the different technical challenges. What we find, and even going back to your question around what we learned from Google, it is so key and critical to remove those barriers for consumers. Consumers will always follow the path of least resistance. Arguably, that's why consumers in the early days were pirating a lot of content, both in the music industry and in video, is because it was easier to do that. We're big believers in building the most elegant and streamlined experiences for our publishers. If you look at what we've done with folks like Pac-12, for example, it's so easy to consume all 7 different linear channels, the hundreds and thousands of ad hoc live events that they do on an annual basis, as well as all the video on demand, and getting all of that in a personalized experience, making that easy for consumers will actually retain them longer, will convert them into more opportunities, and lowering the barriers for our publishers to provide that is ultimately what we see will help the industry evolve the quickest. We're very excited by all of the new innovations that we're seeing around 4K and so on out in the industry. We think that this actually gives another huge incentive to the online industry. We will be able to push content out faster simply because we can innovate and iterate quicker in the online model than we actually can in the offline model. It's just the sheer iteration times are just quicker. So we expect that we're going to start to see a lot more content being produced in 4K, and we'll be actually hitting the online markets first, different than what we actually expect to be seen in the broadcast. So we think it'll provide a huge amount of lift, and very similar to what we find a lot of providers doing with their online video offering in general. It's just another value add on top of their existing package. So one of the big things that we've announced as part of NAB is a new product called XTV Connect. And what this is designed for is to help push content from your mobile device out to DLNA and AirPlay-enabled devices. Why this is so key is when we look at the purchase cycle for consumers, for the 10-foot experience for TVs and set-top boxes, consumers are purchasing on the order of years, 3 to 5 years, whereas on the mobile side, consumers are purchasing much faster. And what we find as a result is this is one of the easiest ways for our publishers to get premium content through a mobile device out to that 10-foot experience as part of a tight, integrated second screen experience. So what we've been essentially providing our publishers is all of the capabilities to easily integrate this into their native apps on Android and iOS devices, and then reach that 10-foot experience with that same investment that they've been making on mobile.